Hi class, it's Sam again. So I'm here with the last installment of Distinguished Philosophers of Education, and we have a special treat because we have three of them together. Professor Eduardo Duarte of Hofstra University,
Greetings.
Professor Tyson Lewis of Montclair State University, and Professor Troy Richardson of Cornell University. And so for all three of you, the question is a very simple one. What is philosophy and closure of education? Who wants to start?
I'll give my very brief sort of introduction and response, first of all, but you ask your professor here to define his terms and define enclosure, because that was actually a theme that we talked about this week, which is enclosure. And philosophy of education, my intro class always begins with the discussion of philosophy introducing you to a particular kind of education. So it's what I call the education of philosophy. So there's a tradition that I am very much interested in exploring with my students, which is an ancient tradition which understood that philosophy had its own particular kind of education that it was involved with, which had to do with enjoining people in the pursuit of what's called wisdom. In fact, philosophy, the Greek word, means philosophia, which is love of wisdom. And this philosophy then is the enactment of the love of wisdom, which is a sort of the erotic pursuit of the truth. And in that pursuit, this education unfolds, which is the formation of a human person and a human community in some ways. So that's, for me, what philosophy of education is. It's being put underway in the pursuit of wisdom, which is,
Okay. For me, philosophy of education is the practice of being stupid about education, right? So, and I mean this literally, right? Being stupefied by the most common sense, simplest concepts that we use to describe education. So I always tell my students in class, don't be afraid about being stupid, because that's the origin, that's the starting point for being philosophical. So what's a philosophical question? It's asking the stupidest questions and being okay with that. So like I say, I'm going to school today. Well, what do you mean by school? What is a school, right? Or I love children. Well, wait a second, what do you mean by love? Or what do you mean by a child? And so by asking, it makes us question common sense assumptions about the most basic terms we use to describe education. That's what it means to be philosophical about education. Yeah.
Yeah. Likewise, I would just say there's a variety. So I would kind of think about it in two forms. Philosophy of education is to be concerned with the tradition of these questions, the ways that the question of what is teaching, what is learning, what is schooling, has been answered and responded to within the Western tradition for a very long time. More broadly, philosophy is to be concerned with precisely kind of being caught by those questions in such a way that one thinks about how to lead one's life more attentively, more intensely, with more love or love of wisdom. Yeah.
I believe I'm actually going to, for the first time, insert myself into the conversation because I believe this particular gathering and community of philosophers and of friends really captures what I hope philosophy and would be, and what would make philosophy educational, which is precisely creating the conditions for the possibility from which a community of friends can emerge. And so for me, there's something timeless about this yearning in the human condition. There's something that's deeply embedded not only in humans, but really, in my mind, in the world itself. And so my own contribution would be to say that I don't know precisely what philosophy is or what education is, but I think that philosophers of education and philosophers and the tradition of philosophy is a tradition in which it's okay to not know, and we can still gather, and we can still come together, and we can disagree, and we can agree. And it's not all relative. It's not just, whatever, but it's precisely the seriousness of and the humility that comes with that. And most of all, though, the table that we sit around, metaphorically speaking, and in this case literally, within which we philosophize and become educated. So that's the end of this series. And
wait. I have one thing to
great.
add. I have one thing to
The
add.
interruption. Perfect.
And that would be, what is a friend? A friend is somebody that you can be stupid with, right? and what does that mean? It means somebody. It's right. It means a group of people you can share a question with. You can share a question with, not an ideology, right? Not an ideology, not a belief, but a question. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you all on Monday. And to everyone else watching this, thank you for watching us. We are at Orrs Island, at the Orrs Island Philosophy of Education Summer Retreat. And we hope to come again and have more iterations
This is
of
the
this.
first annual.
This is the first annual
of the
yes.
Orrs Island Philosophy of Education Summer Retreat, which was initiated by myself,
That's right.
but it was only initiated by myself. I made the offering and the invitation, and my best friends in this world that we inhabit said, yes, we will come. And they arrived full force.
That's right.
And we're not holding anything back, and we engaged and we worked and we participated in the beginning of creating a learning community, or what Tyson likes to call a community of study. And we dwelled together, and we laughed together, and we were serious together, and we had debates together, and we did agonism and dialogue and all the different forms, which is something that your professor is going to talk more about. Because there are many forms under which you do philosophy. And sometimes you're not even realizing you're doing it. But there's contemplation, there's dialogue, there's humor, there's all sorts of things. Embodiment, spiritual.
Any last words, Troy?
Good night.